My date your age, date your age. Well, I want to date my wage. I'm finna shut all this ish down tonight. I want to date my wage.
He said he wanted to date his wage, not his age. It sounded bold, meme ready, one of those lines that racks up views because it feels like swagger wrapped in a punchline. For a while, it worked. The quips, the clips, the confidence. Perfect for a timeline that rewards quick hits. But when the headlines flipped, that same line started to read like a receipt with a lot of zeros. The internet didn't just turn on him, it slowed everything down, pulled old clips, matched timestamps, and built a story where the public brand collided with a private mess. Suddenly, the conversation wasn't about one romance, it was about power, judgment, and how fast a reputation can slide when personal choices get amplified by a camera and a crowd. The vibe shifted from applause to audit, and the audit only got louder each time a new detail surfaced. Viewers who once clipped his jokes started clipping warnings from people who told him to move differently. And if you watch the sequence in order, the arc looked less like bad luck and more like momentum, only moving the wrong way. But this didn't begin with a headline. It began with a chance meeting, a fast-track relationship, and a filing that cracked open everything that followed.
That him now, at the age of 57, shouldn't be messing with a girl that is, 36 years younger than him?
This didn't start on a studio set. It started at a gym, two people talking, swapping numbers, and accelerating into a relationship that moved faster than his calendar. Months later, the same connection was the center of a civil complaint. In April 2025, a woman, initially filed as Jane Doe and later identified in coverage as Gabriella Zuniga, accused Shannon Sharpe of serious misconduct during what both sides described as a consensual relationship. Her filing claimed he recorded private moments, distributed content she believed was for him alone, pushed control over where she went and who she saw, and crossed lines she says she clearly set. These are allegations, not proven facts, but the headlines landed like a hammer. Sharpe rejected the claims, labeled the case a setup, and promised to fight. Even before anything was judged, the filing slowed his on-air momentum. He stepped back, told fans he expected to be back around training camp, and watched the discussions spiral beyond two people into contracts, sponsors, and a carefully built public image. The stakes now lived in two arenas at once, a docket and the court of public opinion. And in that second court, speed always beats nuance. The next move would be judged not just legally, but culturally, and he made it quickly.
Like you, man, y'all get to some age and you still like them young. You like
Yeah.
You like the same age girls I like.
Okay, yeah, right.
He didn't hide behind a PR note. He went straight to camera with a message that felt defiant. The case was a shakedown. He'd be transparent, and he'd defend himself. Soon after, the other side surfaced audio that listeners online believed sounded like his voice using harsh, menacing language. Context and legality took a backseat to virality. Social timelines framed the clip as a story, not a piece of it. Hashtags did the work of editors, and comments did the work of cross-examination. Overnight, the conversation broadened from what happened to what does this say? It wasn't just legal anymore. It turned cultural. Age gaps, power dynamics, and what consent really means when a late 50s celebrity dates someone more than 3 decades younger. Some said 2 adults, end of story. Others pointed to leverage, money, status, and a million-follower megaphone, and asked who actually holds the steering wheel when conflicts appear. For a media figure who thrives by being visible, visibility suddenly had a cost. Every new clip would be judged against every old quote, and the old quotes were plentiful. The narrative moved from dispute to parable, and the timeline began writing its own morals, long before a judge wrote a single line. By mid-July, the public fight ended the quiet way these fights often do. Both sides reached a private resolution. The case was dismissed with prejudice, legal language for "this won't be refiled." There were no criminal charges, no televised showdown, and officially, no dollar figure disclosed. Headlines simply read "settled," and the rumor mill did what it always does. Filled the vacuum with numbers that sounded neat and shareable. Internet math loves round figures and dramatic comparisons. Legal agreements love confidentiality. Those two facts rarely match. Credible reporting underscored the same point. The amount, if any, wasn't public. But one thing did change, very publicly, days after the dismissal. His most visible job was no longer his. Whether you connect those dots or not, the sequence was hard to ignore. A complaint, a defiant response, a private resolution, and then a corporate decision that landed like a period at the end of a sentence. For viewers keeping score, the scoreboard had less to do with courtrooms and more to do with consequences. Networks rarely linger when the ground under a host is shaking. ESPN moved on without a week-long farewell tour, no sweeping montage, no extended goodbye. It was a clean break that arrived less than 2 weeks after news of the settlement. He addressed it to his audience with a tone that mixed acceptance and frustration, wishing the timing hadn't collided with a major family milestone. However you read it, the choreography was clear. Settlement chatter, network decision, then a reset. For a host who had quickly become one of the most clippable voices in sports TV, the message was simple: brands, value, stability. And in that moment, his public ground wasn't stable. The next chapter would have to be built somewhere he controlled more tightly. If the studio chair was gone, the microphone would have to be the anchor. The question was whether he could hold attention without the constant side stories that had been holding him back. Because on modern timelines, controversy buys reach and also charges interest. The bill always comes due. Just as the first case closed, a second front popped up. A Chicago woman, Jimelita Tillman, filed a $20 million defamation suit tied to comments on his nightcap show after her flirty viral moment at an Usher concert. Her claim: the show misstated basics about her relationship status and hurt her reputation. The number drew attention, the filing drew headlines, and for a few days it looked like the pylon had a sequel. Then early August brought a quick update: dismissed in federal court. Coverage described it as closed without an announced payout, and Sharpe publicly pushed back on the notion that money changed hands. Another fire out, at least on paper. But even dismissed cases add weight to a narrative because search results don't sort by resolved first. They sort by most clicked. In that sense, the legal finishes didn't erase anything. They just changed the final line in the summary and left the rest of the paragraph intact. Momentum, again, moved the wrong way, even as boxes were getting checked off in court. Meanwhile, Gabriella posted that she was retiring from OnlyFans, thanking supporters and teasing new projects. One short statement, a wave of conclusions. The internet instantly paired settlement with retirement, turned it into a punchline, and started doing math nobody could verify. Then the post disappeared, and some outlets noted her page still looked active. That didn't stop the storyline from sticking. People love cause and effect, even when the cause and the effect are separated by a locked settlement and a deleted post. Officially, settlement terms remain private. Unofficially, commentary wrote the rest. Threads, reactions, side-by-side comparisons of alleged payout numbers with his career earnings. It made for clean content and messy truth. And that's the modern cycle. One IG note, one delete, and 1,000 hot takes. If you were rooting for him, it felt unfair. If you weren't, it felt like confirmation. Most people weren't reading dockets, they were reading captions. That's where reputations now live, and often where they go to get rewritten.
It's different, baby. I'm grateful I'm not 56 and trying.
An older interview clip resurfaced and landed differently this time. Monique on Club Shay Shay looking him dead in the eye and telling him to stop chasing much younger women and to find someone who fits his life now. Blunt, not cruel. Back then, it played like comedy and warmth. In 2025, it played like a warning. Viewers captioned it, reposted it, and folded it into a fresh narrative. He'd been told. Another piece of context bubbled up too. The night he accidentally went live on Instagram during a private moment months earlier. He later owned it, said he was embarrassed, and explained it on his show. Not illegal, just careless. But in the court of public opinion, careless moments don't vanish. They wait for a new headline to make them look like foreshadowing. All of it fed a broader conversation that goes beyond one person. How age, leverage, and visibility warp a relationship, and how those same forces warp the fallout when things fracture. Two adults can agree on a lot. The internet doesn't have to agree with either of them. And when a power imbalance is perceived, even if you dispute it, the perception often becomes the story. The TV seat is gone. The microphone remains. His podcasts still pull big numbers, and across 2024 to 2025, he became a go-to soundbite machine. If there's a path back, it probably runs through consistent uploads, disciplined messaging, and fewer self-inflicted clips for the timeline to feast on. Traditional studio jobs are tougher. Networks bet on calm seas, not choppy water. The lesson he's voiced in the past about discipline, choices, and image has never been more literal. In the attention economy, your voice is a power tool. Use it carelessly and it cuts back. Use it to posture about money, youth, and status, and the internet will pair those quotes with your worst headlines. Use it to take accountability and set firmer boundaries, and maybe, over time, you get permission to tell a different story. So where does the story actually land? 3 threads. First, the legal one. The April lawsuit ended in a private settlement and a dismissal with prejudice. Final on paper, opaque by design. Second, the career one. ESPN moved on, and he says he accepts that. The next network chapter, if there is one, will depend on how clean the next year looks. Third, the cultural one. The age gap and power imbalance debate won't fade. This case just gave it a new flashpoint. The settlement didn't prove guilt or innocence, it proved calculation on both sides. She closed a case without a trial. He ended a fight that had already cost him more than money. Everything else, dollar amounts, motives, who won, lives in rumor. The only clear test left is time. Because for all the noise, the real question is simple. Did he learn anything? Not in a statement, not in a short podcast rant, but in the quiet, when there's nobody to impress. If the answer is yes, there's a version of a comeback built on growth, not deflection. If not, the next viral clip is already buffering. Either way, that old line isn't going anywhere. Date your wage. The second half is the part that stings. Live with the tab. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss any celebrity gossip. Thanks for watching.